Welcome to the Get Real Podcast, your high-octane boost of in the trenches, tell it like it is reality therapy for personal, business, and real estate investing success. With your hosts, powerpreneurs, Angela Thomas and Ron Phillips. It's time to get real.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Get Real Podcast. I'm Angela Thomas, and I'm here with Ron Phillips.
We're here.
Hey, we are here. And you've probably all, if you've been listening to us for a while, I always say I'm excited. So this one's actually kind of personal. I'm not sure I'm excited. We're going to talk about something that, holds back most people in this world from being everything you can be, to get cheesy here.
Fear.
I know. Sorry. So we're going to talk about fear. And this is a good moment. I have fearless written on my arm right here. So
sweet.
I know, because this is
benefit to watching this.
If you guys are on the podcast, you can't see it, but yeah, it's not written on, I guess it's a tattoo, but this is really important to me because it's really, really easy to let fear stop you from doing everything you want to do, everything that's important to you, from being successful, from sharing your opinions, from singing. I love singing, but it scares me to sing in front of people. And letting fear hold you back kind of ruins your life. It makes it so you're not really living. So we're going to kind of talk about that a little bit today and give some examples.
And we're going to try to have fun with it because, fear's a heavy topic, but we don't do heavy very well. So we will be lightheartedly talking about fear. And if you get offended by that, so be it.
Yeah. So first off, fear is good in certain situations, right? If you don't have, a little bit of fear, it'd be a lot easier to accidentally hurt yourself or die. So.
Yeah. You mean you'll end up like the dude that was jumping across buildings really, really high and then missed. Yeah. Now, there's a reason why you get scared for things like that. That's because you could die. And right. We're not in any way in this show suggesting you should do things that are stupid that you would be scared of,
Right. Yeah.
The fear does exist for a reason. There is a natural reason why we have fear and, why we don't go pet lions. Some people don't have it. I just watched on Facebook the other day, some moron out in Yellowstone, I think, they were getting really close to a buffalo. Did you see this?
No, I missed it. Tell me about it. The
buffalo starts to charge them, and the parents bail.
They leave their kids?
Kid there, and the kid gets thrown, I don't know how far in the air, right?
Oh my gosh.
The fact that you're not scared of a buffalo that is right next to you.
Yeah, I
think that sometimes this whole notion of let's get rid of natural selection and put
oh man, now we've got you on natural selection. It's a good time.
All over everything so that we save stupid people so that they can breed, I think is maybe a problem. I don't know. This is the lighthearted part of the show. Ron does not believe that we should spay or neuter human beings just because they're stupid. Although sometimes...
That was a joke, okay?
Although sometimes when I'm out in public, I feel like that it should be done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, people die in the running with the bulls. Is that what it's called in Spain? So, have some respect for buffalo. Jeez.
Yeah, or bear.
Bears. If you don't know how to pick up a rattlesnake, don't do it. It's a bad idea.
It's just some things you probably should listen to the fear about is what we're trying to say, right? Yeah. And for goodness sake, if you have a child with you and you're not scared, be scared at least for the child, and then don't be a punk and run off and leave the child there to be hit by the buffalo.
Oh man, I'm sorry. I should have more sympathy for those parents that were terrified, but who leaves their kid there? That's horrible.
At least push the kid out of the way first.
Yeah, geez. Okay,
sorry.
Oh man, now I'm all upset about the buffalo.
Somebody's going to make an angry comment about me
I know.
One of the people that ran away from their kid.
I know. Someone's going to say we should have more understanding for the poor parents, but oh man, I don't. So I'm sorry. Okay. So that makes sense though. Physical fear. If there's something that could kill you, you should be scared. That makes sense. But a lot of times it actually helps me to think, what's this thing I'm scared of? Like what's the absolute worst thing that could happen if I get up and speak in front of a room of 1,000 people? Am I going to die? Probably not. Yeah. I mean, unless I'm a horrible speaker and someone throws something very heavy at me, there's very, very small chance that you could get hurt up there. So, that really does help you in most things to kind of look at it and say, am I being ridiculous here? Is there actually danger? Because your body gets all, fight and flight response on all kinds of dumb things that aren't going to hurt you.
Uh-huh. Yep.
And it's very common. Fear of public speaking is actually, I think it's the number 1 or number 2 fear in the world.
It's number 1.
Is it number 1?
Number 2 is death.
Oh, well, that's funny. Death should actually be first. Come on.
It should.
Yeah. I actually like public speaking, but
it's an irrational fear, but it's one that everybody has nonetheless. Most people have.
Most people. No, I'm more scared of singing than speaking. So, I'm a weirdo. But if there's nothing actually there that can physically hurt you, it really does stop and try to, it helps to try to be logical about it. And we have all kinds of fears, fear of public speaking and fear of singing in front of people, fear of speaking up, in a classroom setting or, mastermind, whatever. Those are kind of illogical fears, but there's some that, won't actually kill you that are real fears. Like I'm afraid I won't be able to support my family. That won't technically kill you.
Yeah.
That is a real personal fear that most of us have felt, right?
Yeah. It's not a whole lot different than the other ones you just mentioned, but there is potentially a whole lot worse that could happen to you if you, for whatever reason, can't provide for your family. Right. So, so it's a real fear, especially, it's a real fear for a lot of people because they've been through it. Yes. And now it's even more of a fear because they've lost their job or whatever the case may be. And they're in a situation where that's a legit concern. Right.
Okay. I don't want to get too heavy here, but Ron, I know you've been through that.
Many times.
Okay. But recently, 2011, I actually witnessed it because I was kind of part of it. So
yeah, it was scary. I had a partnership that blew up and I was facing, head on into, do I go get a job? Do I start my own business? And how do I do that with no money? But to spare everybody the details, I didn't have any money, right? It was
no, it wasn't like you got to take half the business and you had or you didn't even get severance like people that get fired, I
didn't have any seed capital, right? So there was no money. And so it was very scary actually, because I was staring this decision. On the one hand, could I go get a job? Yeah. Probably. I had a bunch of experience. I could probably go get a job and make decent money. Didn't really want to do that. But on the other hand, there's this voice that says, what if you try it and you fail? You don't have, I didn't have any runway. It's not like I had 6 months of runway where I could just try it out and see what happened.
Well, and you'd been working for yourself for so long. It would have been hard to find the right job anyway. You probably would have had to do a sales job and hoped that it worked out and all commission. That's a huge risk too. So
yeah, that's basically being in business for yourself anyway. You're just selling someone else's stuff. So yeah, it was very scary and it was real. It happened. I'm sure there's people listening who are going, yeah, I've experienced that. Either they got laid off from a job or, their business was failing or, whatever the case may be. And they've felt exactly that. And,
yep.
So I guess there's all kinds of fears that we have. A lot of them are real. Some of them are contrived, but even the real ones really quick, we need to point out, Angela, I think that there's this lunatic in our brain that tells us about all of the worst possible outcomes that can happen on any given situation, right? Yep. I mean, everything. It's constantly there, and it's constantly telling you all of the things that could go wrong with everything. The problem is that we listen to the lunatic and we don't listen to the other side that is telling us all of the things that could go right. And it drowns it out. And you gotta figure out how to not listen to the voice, because you can't shut it down. And the other thing you need to understand too is that it's not actually you. I call it this lunatic that's talking to you.
Yeah, if you haven't read The Untethered Soul, it's a great book that talks about this very thing. And it's funny, I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, actually, that if you get too wrapped up in what that lunatic, as Ron calls it, your voice that's talking to you all the time and interpreting the world, if you get wrapped up in what that's saying and let it get to you and believe it, you don't have any room for hope or positivity in your life. You get so wrapped up in the fear that you just feel anxiety and depression and fear, and there's no room for anything good to come in. You have to find a way to ignore that or stomp it down enough that you have room for the good things in life, and to let good things happen, and to have hope, right? To actually get out of it.
Yes. So. Or you'll never get past the fear. Because all that does is magnify the fear. It's how many possible ways could you fail at X, or
right.
It's the same. Like in the book, it talks about just some stupid thing that happens. Right, you get irritated at somebody, and so you run over and over and over in your head like 1,000,000 times what you're going to say to this person. Because the first time that you practiced it in your brain wasn't enough, we're going to do it 20 times. And every time we're going to layer something else on there too. And then in addition to that, we're also going to we're going to prejudge what they're going to do, what their reaction is going to be, and how horrible this situation is going to be. And we're going to get ready for that. Which, I guess if you're caveman, this is probably good, because you do have to get ready for, what if Sabretooth comes at you? But in our world, it's not really necessary, because Aunt Jane or whoever it was that you got irritated with is probably not coming at you with a knife. And
you just blew the whole thing out of proportion. And the best way to handle, your disagreement with Aunt Jane is to act like everything's fine and to just love her. So, right?
Yeah. So going back to the fear of other things and the lunatic, it's really easy to go, okay, if I start this business, there's a really solid chance it's going to fail. And statistically speaking, that's absolutely true. And it should be a concern. I think what you're trying to say, Angela, is that you can't let that stop you from taking the chance or taking the risk.
No, and real quick, actually, there's another book I read called The Worry Trick. And it kind of goes along with The Untethered Soul really well, because one of the suggestions in there, if you're a chronic worrier and you're scared of everything and you have this lunatic always talking to you, is to take what your inner negative thought is, what your worry is, and to blow it completely out of proportion so far that it makes you laugh, that it's ridiculous. Just make fun of that voice in your head. So, as an example, if you're like, I'm going to start a business, and that voice is like, your business is probably going to fail. You've failed at a lot of things before. How can you make that ridiculous? You say like, yeah, and I'm probably going to end up homeless, and my family is, and everyone's going to hate me. And then I'm going to live in a tent and get hit by a car. I mean, how far can you take it? I'm sorry, I was flying off the seat of my pants there, but
I think living in a tent and getting hit by a car is pretty far. I mean,
okay, you think that was good? Yeah. So
in the grand scheme of things, I think that's pretty far.
Okay. Yeah. So like taking your worry and just, you almost can make fun of it, have a sense of humor about it. And it takes away the power of that worry. So that's just a little trick.
There's power in just confronting it with a veracity that you would need if you meet the saber-toothed tiger, right?
That's true.
It's either you're going to get eaten or you're going to fight, right? One of the two, because you can't outrun it. And I think a lot of people, when they hit this fear in the face, they cower in the corner instead because it's easier to do that. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, in order to overcome fear, because you can't get rid of it, you can't just ignore it.
Say, I'm not going to be scared. Yeah.
What you have to do is you have to annihilate it. And the only way to do that is to hit it head on and go full bore at it. And
real cheesy here, like Batman, surround yourself with those bats if you're scared of bats, right? So if you're scared of public speaking, you got to figure out a way to get in front of people and speak, because the more you do it, the less power that fear has.
Absolutely.
And same with Ron, you talked about not being able to support your family, but you had that fear of not being able to support your family. What did you do?
It was really cool. I actually went and talked to my family about it.
Yeah.
And wouldn't you know, my biggest support system came from my family, including my kids who didn't get Christmas that year, right? Or not a very big Christmas, right? A really tiny Christmas. We didn't have any money. But it was fun for us to all get together and take on this challenge together. And I had a bunch of other friends too that I talked to about it, and I got them all on my team. And how much easier it is for you to attack something and annihilate it when you've got a whole herd of people with you. Yeah. So the other thing is that when we hit something that we're scared of, we usually don't tell anybody about it either, because our pride gets in the way and says, oh, well, if you can't handle this by yourself, then you probably shouldn't tell anybody about it. Well, that's the opposite of reality too. Because if you tell your actual friends about it, you get more people with you. You get more people on your squad, right? And now you're going to go in and the challenge seems less at that point because you got people on your side.
Yep.
But you got to take fear and you've got to attack it like you've not attacked anything before, until it becomes until you've either conquered it or it becomes minimal to the point where it's a manageable thing, or it's not really that big of a deal. Like you were talking about with public speaking.
Yeah, exactly.
And we did that first year we were in business. We absolutely attacked it and annihilated it. And the fear left.
Yeah. Yes, we did, with the help of that support team, like you said, because it wasn't, if you had to do that all by yourself, it would have been a little harder. So,
well, we talked about this in previous episodes. The reality is nobody does any of this by themselves. And the people who say that they do and beat their chest about the fact that they do, then you just look around and they have a lot of people actually who are supporting them. They may call them employees, they may call them a spouse, they may call them family or friends or whatever they happen to be, or a bunch of all of the above. They didn't ever do it by themselves, ever. Mm-mm. And to say that they did is disingenuous at best.
Yeah, and mean to all those people that helped them. They should get some credit. So, yes. So the other thing, people have fear with that, that is a legitimate fear is fear of losing. We talked about failing, when starting a new business, and the loss aversion psychology theory, is that fear of loss is stronger than the joy of gain. And we've all heard that before, right?
Yep, 100% agree with that.
So loss aversion. So most people would rather not lose, to use an example, not lose $5 than to gain $5, right? So this is a huge problem when it comes to, starting your own company like you did, Ron, or investing, since that's what we talk a lot about here.
Yep.
If you are absolutely terrified of losing $5, or whatever the amount is, you're gonna have a hard time being a good investor. You're gonna be a crappy investor, right?
Yeah, and a lot of times in trying to not lose, you've completely lost based on opportunity cost, and that's what I think we talked about in the last episode about stepping over dollar bills to pick up nickels. Everybody gets so bent out of shape about the tiny little nickels, and they're not looking at the grand picture, right? They're not looking at the entire thing. And because of that, they just get paralyzed.
Yep.
By fear. Right.
And then you end up keeping your money in your, savings account, making less than 1% a year, right?
Yeah, losing money
because it costs more than that. So, So yes, I mean, there's obviously a fine line here. We're not saying you shouldn't have any, loss aversion. Obviously there are risks that you need to watch out for. And we've talked a lot about those. There's a lot of scams and, hype and stuff out there that you shouldn't be listening to. And you should be careful when making investment decisions. But having the fight or flight mode, freaking out about it and letting those fears take over, operating from a place of fear is not going to make you successful. If you're making your decisions based on fear, you're going to miss out on opportunities that would have brought you success and joy and freedom in your life. So a much better way, right?
Financially speaking, you should not be leaping buildings either.
No.
Right? So I mean, if your entire net worth is $50,000 and you're going all in on a particular investment, you are officially leaping buildings. That's what you're doing. All right.
It's almost like pushing it all in on red, in gambling. So
yeah, you can't do that. I mean, it's not quite that bad because you can vet the deal and everything like that, but things could go wrong. And then, you're and then all of your money is gone because you went all in. Right. So just understand that because we're talking about fears and that you should overcome fears doesn't mean that you should jump from one building to another building when the buildings are 10 stories in the air. You should not do that. And you shouldn't do that financially either. Right? No,
like Ron said when he was going through his, fear of not being able to support his family, he had to find a team to support him, people he trusts, and then take logical action. But you got to take the fear out of it a little bit. But we're not saying to, leap buildings, like you said. You got to have a good team that you trust, that you can bounce decisions off of, and logically look at the pros and cons and the numbers and make sound decisions and leave yourself enough money to not, lose your shorts if something goes wrong. So
yeah, and then if you're backed up against a wall, like we were, then you got to attack it with a veracity that is required when your back's against the wall. You can't go at it halfway and expect that you're going to get really good results. When you are backed into a corner, you've got to come out swinging like your life depends on it. And it's really, really important that there's two different things, right? We're saying don't jump buildings, but if there's a dude chasing you with a gun and the only way you can get away is to jump the building, you jump the building. That's what I'm saying, right? But if you're for sport jumping buildings, you're a moron, right? But if you're trying to get away from somebody who's going to try to kill you, you got to jump the building. So where was I?
There are cases. Yeah.
I was being chased by the guy with the gun, apparently, right? So I came out swinging. Yep. And that's what you have to do in order to survive in those scenarios. When that happened to me, I shut everything off. Everything I could shut off in my life financially, I shut off. Sold cars. I mean, I did everything I could do financially to eliminate expense while I was at the same time doing everything that I could do to generate income or generate revenue. And I mean, Angela, you remember me? We really, really hard. And we did so for a long time, months. But when you hit something with that kind of veracity, it's really hard to not succeed, and you can see it if you like, fighting, if you like MMA or boxing or any kind of sport like that, you can see it in the person's eyes. They don't even have to be the most technical person. Sometimes the most, technically advanced fighter doesn't win because their heart's not in it, because their back isn't against the wall. They don't have something to prove. They're coming at it from a different angle, where the other guy is coming at this and it's all on the line, right? So that's what I'm saying. When you get into that particular point, you got to use the fear as something that you need to attack.
Heck yeah.
And then you can overcome it.
That is so true. Fear can also be, you have to push it out enough that you're not paralyzed, but like Ron said, fear can be a great motivator, and it can give you the energy and veracity you need to take something on. So it just needs to be used correctly, and not, you can't let it paralyze you.
Yep.
And that applies to every area of life, including investing, like we talked about. So you got to push fear out enough that you can see the opportunities and be confident seizing them. So
you got to do the things. So like with investments, Angela, you just got to do the things that are going to make you have the ability to overcome the fear. Right. So if you're scared of investing out of state, take a trip. Right. If you're scared because you don't understand the numbers, well, then learn the numbers, figure it out. Whatever it is that's scaring you and keeping you from moving forward with something that's going to benefit you in your life, figure it out. Yeah. It's not that hard. Anybody can do it. You're just going to have to, again, attack it and make it become a strength instead of a weakness or a fear that you have. Right?
Exactly. Yep.
We hear that from a lot of our clients, right? That were really scared in the beginning, and then really scared on property 2 and probably 3. But after 4, 5, 6, it becomes old hat. It becomes something that now it's a known commodity. There's no reason to be scared of it anymore, right? Because they did something, they acted, and
action is the best way to get over fear. Always.
I'm telling you.
It is. So, all right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. If you have any comments or suggestions on other topics you want to listen to, or you just want to subscribe to our podcast and tell us what you think, check us out on getrealestatesuccess.com or on Facebook at Get Real Podcast. We'd love to hear from you, and we hope to see you next time. Thanks, Ron.
See ya.
This has been the Get Real Podcast. To subscribe and for more information, including a list of all episodes, go to getrealestatesuccess.com.